Hello, I have perfected Palworld's early access on Steam by collecting all 10 achievements. This includes catching pals, defeating trainers, and a few more we'll touch on a bit later. Welcome to my full review. Palworld is an open-world survival crafting creature collector game released in early access, being developed and published by Pocket Pair, previously known for Craftopia. You can find the game only on Steam and Xbox Game Pass. They do not currently have plans to release on PlayStation, however that can change once and if they reach a full release. The game also does not currently support crossplay, however they confirmed it is in the works. With that being said, let's move on to the settings page, which takes a simplistic, semi-futuristic approach. This makes it pleasant on the eyeballs, with each column being separated accordingly. They remove the need to scroll in any of these menus, including your keybinds, and I think this deserves a small hand clap. Very nice. There are 4 difficulty options: casual, normal, hard, and custom. My entire experience was played through on normal with no custom settings changed whatsoever, which I'll touch on in a second. The higher the difficulty, the grindier it becomes, as it provides way less experience to your character and pals, more death penalties such as dropping everything including your pals, and making pals harder to catch with lower percentages across the board. I would recommend playing on normal as it is how the game was intended to be played. If you would like to play your own way, the custom difficulty allows you to change a large variety of settings to make the game play exactly as you like. These settings can be changed anytime by just simply leaving the game and editing your world. I've been noticing that custom is pretty much frowned upon by the majority of the community, including me to some degree. However, after completing the game on normal once, you will most likely never want to do that again without adjusting something or at least playing with your friends. There are a lot of annoyances the further you progress, and it takes longer and longer to do things that can simply be avoided by adjusting a small setting. That being said, play however you want, as no one truly cares as long as you yourself are having fun. Don't ruin the game for yourself over what other people think. The replayability of Palworld is enormous by the sole fact of it being a survival game. It is technically endless as it offers so much to collect, gather, build, organize, and so forth. Adding friends or joining public servers is a whole entire experience in itself. The gameplay loop of Palworld consists of collecting resources to build up your base where it's convenient enough to withstand raids and provide automation. This is where you will start crafting spears that you can use to go out, beat, then catch them. You can bring them home and give them a grand life of endless berries and chores for eternity. You want to catch 10 of each unique pal, so be sure to have lots of spears. Once you catch your pals, they become a lovely maintenance crew member. They're basically all unpaid interns, and do all the hard work around the house, such as crafting items and collecting resources. The more pals you have, the more resources they can get for you, and the more rich and powerful you will become. Their labor of love gives you all the free time you could want to go climb those really tall mountains or throw hands with pals more than twice your level. Don't worry too much about your pals, they'll help you build structures around your base. These items include nice cozy beds for your pals, farms where they can grow and harvest their own food, and a cool looking hot tub that even the biggest pals can relax in and soak those sore muscles of theirs after a hard day of work. They love it here at your base so much that they'll even keep working while you're away. The further you progress, you're able to level up your base and unlock new items that your pals can build for you. You'll find that you'll need lots of certain items such as spears, food, and ammo. This is where you really put your delegation skills to work. Each pal has certain skills that they can perform, such as handiwork, transporting, or even cooling to keep your refrigerator cold so food doesn't spoil. And to make a functioning base, you'll need to go out there and recruit some new pals to brighten up the workplace. Base. You can pretty much assume the higher level or cooler looking the pals, the more likely they're going to be more proficient in their skills. Now, there is in fact an end goal, aside from catching them all or building an epic 5-star pal resort for your workers. There are 5 towers you can visit, and within these towers are some big bosses that you might feel compelled to defeat. You could say they're like the gym bosses from another game we all know and love. Each boss has their own specific element that they can battle with, and with each tower it becomes more challenging. You get 10 minutes to destroy them, or else you just simply fight and lose. Now, Palworld being released under a early access tag, I feel it is slightly unfair to rapidly fire down my long list of bugs and complaints, as the game is filled with them. They've also made it clear they're working on fixing most of them and even adding new things. I would hope so. That won't stop me from complaining about the base experience, however. I quite enjoyed getting my Sheikah slate, discovering my location, coming out of my cave, and then meeting a not so obvious old man sitting down by the fire. It's been impossible to not see the Pokemon drama with this game. However, I've seen no mention of the very obvious amount of Zelda influence taken here. This honestly bothered me more than some cat lookalike. Meow. The tutorial section is okay at showing you the very bare minimum. However, it quickly redirects you to their survival guide, which does provide all the extra information you will probably need. I am very much a trial and error type of guy, so I don't like having all the information I need thrown into a menu's manual. Keep that for your physical edition, or better yet, continue the questline throughout the levels, just like the bases. If I didn't read most of these, I'm sure others won't either. My top annoyance of the game is the entire spear throwing mechanic. The amount of times I've accidentally thrown a ball, had my pal murder the pal I'm trying to catch, the ball just misses or gets deflected is extremely frustrating. I understand having a level cap for different types of spears. However, while you're trying to catch a pal quite above your level, you're required to use spears you cannot currently craft, rendering your current ones useless and unable to be used on them. They will simply just get denied and warn you they cannot be used. Try a better one. This now forces you to kill the pal you just spent your time attempting to catch. You should at least have the chance to catch the pal you outperformed, under-leveled, than to be simply told no for your efforts. I would like to touch on the tower bosses real quick, which are the main stage bosses or DPS checks of progress. You have 10 minutes to do their entire health bar, or you just simply fade and have to try again later. The fights themselves are not that bad. Some are quite challenging if you're not properly equipped or have the countering elemental pals. I recommend trying to overlevel or properly gear up before your fights. The tower rooms themselves are my only complaint. They're reused for every leader, and I think providing an extra flair of personality attached to each would make these fights so much better. Perhaps a slightly different arena, or at least a color change. Fresh spawn to around level 30 is a very smooth and fantastic time. I wish this experience was fluid throughout. I absolutely loved trying to learn every little detail, building up my base, catching new pals, and just exploring the entire world and what it has to offer. The base building is quite a fun time, and you're eventually provided with so many extra house-related items, I don't know what to do with them. Some will benefit you, while others are just for decoration purposes. You can honestly build anything you can imagine. However, if your imagination includes any type of staircase, slender roof, or the pal box, it will be unnecessarily difficult for absolutely no reason. The placements of these items make no sense, and some can't even be placed on top of one another. You have to come at an angle. I hated this. Once you reach around level 30, it starts to become less interesting. The gameplay and experience gained slows down a tremendous amount, down to the point where I had to stop and question if I was even playing it right. The answer to that was obviously no, but I readjusted my playstyle multiple times, all of which was just enough for me to keep on floating by. At first glance, I thought the world was going to be an extreme disappointment. The trailers I watched made the areas seem extremely out of place compared to the pals and game within. While that is still true in some select areas, after a while of playing, I got real adjusted to the world and changed my perspective on the visuals. I quite like them now. As for the world itself, it's quite large with endless possibility of expansions, and yet it can still feel very empty. What I mean by this is the world is technically full of pals, field bosses, ores, and even trees to chop. But once you've caught all your buddies, that entire section of the map becomes quite useless. I obviously played my entire experience solo, so I'd assume the multiplayer experience would fill this side of the world a little better, which I think is intended, as when you first spawn, multiple islands that seem marked with seemingly no point aside from a lot of empty space for bases. There are caves, all called dungeons, scattered around the map, and at first they can be quite helpful. They can provide a lot of early required materials alongside some extra goodies, however they are incredibly long, not fun whatsoever, and usually not worth your time past the first attempt. While you explore the world, you'll uncover more field bosses you'll want to catch. However, you'll eventually arrive, and they will be nowhere to be found. Why? Well, they're underground inside a point of interest you have absolutely no idea of. The only clue you're given of these places are the glowing torches put outside, which you will not see unless it's dark. Anyway, speaking of nighttime, this is my favorite part of the entire game. If you place your base at spawn or somewhere elevated, once night falls, you can usually see across the entire world. It's incredibly peaceful and yet full of all the glowing towers, waypoints, and collectibles you may have missed. It truly is an outstanding visual that alone carries a lot of its weight. As for the audio, I don't have many complaints here. They did a great job at giving everything a distinct sound, so you won't be confused on what's doing what. The pickup sound is my favorite when running over multiple items at once. The surround sound was absolutely horrible day one, however a patch seemed to fix this, so I cannot complain sadly. I love complaining. Hey, this section will include spoilers. If you like to avoid them, simply skip ahead to the positive and negative section now. If and when you are ready, we can continue. The story of Palworld starts you with washing ashore from an unknown event. You pick up a random Sheikah slate, which you'll never use again, walk up a couple hundred steps behind the scenes, and voila, you've made it. I'm quite positive the story will evolve over time and come important at a later time when and if it becomes a requested thing. I don't think they cared or put too much thought into the current story. However, with that being said, they have placed journals across the world for you to collect to get a little more insight into the lore they are trying to tell. You can also talk to most of the villagers you'll come across who will have something to say, story related or not. The journals go through multiple viewpoints, starting with an unnamed traveler similar to you, talking about discovering an island after being shipwrecked, which we can now assume happened to us. You will eventually begin traveling to try and find answers. You'll come across a tower, go inside, freak out, and be awoken outside of it. He eventually travels further and discovers a statue of a pal and wonders why they worshipped him. He'll then find and go through most of the actual tower boss's journals, which provides insight into their stories and motivations. Being completely honest, I am not currently interested in Palworld's story. It doesn't exactly speak to me in ways I should be caring about it. You have to go out of your way to hopefully find enough of the journals to even get a glimpse into the story they're trying to tell, so it's obvious most of the story is only there for those who truly strive and care about it. I do think it's very cool they're trying to sink their feet into the lore side of the title, and I'm excited to see how and where they take the story's final release come launch. As mentioned before, there are a total of 10 achievements, all of which took me 89 hours to obtain, with the average being around 60. Cheaters. I usually don't like mentioning the achievements handed to you just by playing through, however, those are the only achievements Palworld currently offers. Out of those 10 achievements, 5 of those are completed by catching a large majority of the pals in the game, 90 out of the 138 to be exact. These achievements are a pretty nice cakewalk, as you'll also discover most pals have an additional variant, which can be pretty helpful. The remaining 5 achievements are all tied to defeating all 5 tower bosses. These achievements are what will take the longest, as they come down to how strong you and your party are at that time. The hardest achievement award will be going to Astral Souvenir. While Victor and Shadowbeak are the end boss of the current game, this is one fight that caused me a lot of pain. It truly makes you min-max by crafting the latest tech, obtaining extremely powerful pals, and upgrading them as high as possible, all while eating the right food, dodging many attacks, and praying you'll do enough damage in the time frame. Or get extremely lucky with the jank and finish him off like this. Let's be honest, the achievements currently are pretty lame, and we're clearly not a priority whatsoever, which is fine, it's early access. I have some faith they'll eventually add a lot more, but if not, I'll be very disappointed. They can easily be tied to reaching max level, upgrading your base, collecting all the journals or effigies, whatever it may be, just give me something to look forward to and progress. I don't exactly like walking aimlessly for hours on end. Now let's talk about some of the positives. It's a genre-bending creature collector survival game with a large combination of mechanics that all work very well together. It's very easy to pick up and play while also having a skill gap of knowledge in between. It has good feeling combat, a huge open world, and will provide hours of fun to any playstyle you throw at it. As for the negatives, crafting can sometimes take an extremely long time even with the help of pals. The mid to late game can become quite stale, ruining your experience only after a good couple of hours. And it's an early access, so it's very janky. You'll come across a lot of random bugs, randomly frustrating mechanics, or very questionable things, but that is all to be expected. We just have to hope it will get fixed sooner than later. In conclusion, Palworld in its current state is a pretty dang solid game, if you can get over all of the small annoyances. It has a great foundation, unlimited potential, and with time on its side I'm sure it can be built into something much greater. The game is also incredibly cheap if compared to recent titles, and you'll absolutely get your money's worth even if you don't bother to finish the game. I would recommend giving it a go in its current state, however, the longer you wait, the more problems will be fixed. Take that how you will. I'll be revisiting the game myself if they add more achievements, or eventually full release. However, that will conclude my Palworld Early Access review. Thank you so much for watching if you made it this far. Let me know what you thought down below, or what game I should complete next. Subscribe so you never miss a video, and until next time, take care.